Hello. Right as I unmute the microphone, a horn just starts honking away outside my window. How's everybody doing today? Doing good? You better be. New year, new mental illness. It is Larsen Live, January 11th, 2025. Fire it up. Let's talk about everybody's favorite oxygen based chemical reaction the Los Angeles fires. The state is on fire, more so than usual. Well, as we all know, wildfires are fairly common in California. When I was in my master's degree program in San Francisco, every summer you could smell the wildfires drifting down. But that's NorCal. We're talking SoCal here. Yet the Pacific Palisades are on fire. 21,317 acres, literally 10 times as big as the Great Chicago Fire from the 1800s that has gone down in American folklore. 8% of the fires have been contained. It's so bad that Canadian and Mexican firefighters are pitching in to assist. Yep, Pasadena and Altadena in LA County still on fire. A little bit better with containment. People are evacuating the San Fernando Valley. And part of the reason why, beyond the natural reasons, is just the gross incompetence of Gavin Newsom's government. First of all, there have been several cases where homeless brappies have started the fires. Arson is, in fact, a major reason why these things are happening, more so than usual. I mean, the Pacific Northwest rainforest being what it is, there's always going to be wildfires. Also, not helping matters is the fact that some Australian smartass sold a lot of eucalyptus trees to California, only for them to, light up on fire hundreds of years later, 100 years later, I should say. Obviously, not all of it is arson, but at least some of them are arsonists. Multiple people have been arrested for doing arson. One of them was done by a citizen's arrest. Some of them were done by the police. One of the arson suspects was found carrying multiple cell phones and a prepaid debit card. The LAPD says they have no probable cause to charge the man who was caught with a blowtorch starting fires. Will they let him go? Probably. Also worth pointing out is that there's one of these really annoying sign language interpreters during the press conference. Closed captioning is an option. The sign language thing is a bit distracting. Just saying. Yes, some people are saying that the talks of arsonists are a mere conspiracy theory. People are mad at, of all people, Henry Winkler for irresponsibly suggesting there is arsonists, even though multiple people have been arrested as arsonists. And really, how can you be angry at Henry Winkler? He's the Fonz. You can't be mad at him. Yes, this may come as a surprise to some of you people, but homeless derelicts do sometimes cause fires for no goddamn good reason. They do many things for no good reason, as a matter of fact. Pushing people onto the subways has no good reason, but here you go. Yeah, it's not great. Not helping matters is the fact that gross incompetence in the California municipal structure has led to multiple fire hydrants having no water. So, in fact, even if you wanted to put the fires out, you can't. I'm sure also in a complete coincidence, the Los Angeles Fire Department has basically, hired a bunch of really fat lesbians who can't do the job to run things. And yeah, it hasn't gone well. Basically, there was something. What was it the woman said? It was like some people say that, I might have difficulty carrying a 200-pound man out of the door. I say, why did you put yourself in a situation to get asphyxiated by smoke in the first place? Yeah, no, it's not really your responsibility to, judge me for getting into a situation where I'm about to burn to death. It is your job to, get me out of the burning house. It's also worth pointing out that Los Angeles County, for some strange reason, failed to test their fire hydrants a week before the fire started. Also worth pointing out is that LA Mayor Karen Bass just stood by and let the reservoirs empty out to protect some fish or something. And she just pieced out and went to some birthright trip to Ghana while the city was burning. Bless you, baby. No worries. The lovely Daphne Halleck is, of course, on the couch behind me, as is Caramel Halleck. Ponythroat says they ran out of water, so they tried putting out the fire with gasoline. Yeah, that's what it seems like. You know, it has been said never attribute to malice that which you can attribute to stupidity. But you know what? I feel like malice might be part of what's going on here. I mean, you, like, they can't be this incompetent, can they? They just let the reservoirs dry up and stop testing the fire hydrants. And then, wouldn't you know it, wildfires rage and people loot the mansions. I mean, there is some good to come out of this. Hopefully, if Beverly Hills burns down, maybe the rich can start noticing what's going on for once. I've always said that one of the biggest problems in America today is that nobody suffers the consequences of their actions. Maybe now they will suffer the consequences of their actions. So says, of all people, Jennifer Garner trends on Twitter, saying that one of her friends, an unknown friend, died in the LA fires. My condolences, Jen. But, I hate to say it, but, like, maybe if the rich and powerful can, like, suffer the consequences of their actions, perhaps they might make some changes. It would be great if our country wasn't actively working to just make everybody's life worse. I've been told so many times by people from other countries that they used to look up and admire America. It used to seem to be a country that could do anything, win wars, rebuild countries, put man on the moon. And now everything just sucks. Yeah. I forget his name, but a German writer came to America in 1958, and he made a television appearance basically saying, "You here in America, you've created the greatest country that has ever existed, but you better be careful not to screw it up." Well, needless to say, we sure screwed it up. How do you mess up California? California is literally Elysium on Earth. It is the land of eternal spring, the land of, beautiful beaches and beautiful women and, gadding about in like a year-long growing season. The way they've turned that state into a goddamn shithole, that is impressive. That should go down in history and be studied. I'm sure that when, the Chinese Communist Party writes the history of the rise and fall of the American Empire, I'm sure they'll put a chapter in there saying how badly we blew it. Biff Slankovich says, hello. Hello, sir. Narahari Kamath says, what about the ultra-rich couple who got government to divert the water to their pistachio farm? Yes, that too. Shinseki Evans says, malice is responsible for the incompetence. Biff Slankovich says, Trump does not accept the consequences of his actions. Unconditional discharge, blah. Yeah, that is a bipartisan problem in this country. People don't suffer the consequences of their actions. They advocate for stupid policies that make them feel good. They don't hurt their fifis. And then, when the common man has to suffer the consequences of the actions, they can just gad about in their, compounds, their gated compounds, and not suffer the consequences. Narahari Kamath says, now everything sucks. You can thank Biden and woke culture for it. I mean, honestly, the end shitification of America goes back a lot further than Biden, believe me. Yeah, Gavin Newsom is, with his creepy Patrick Bateman look, he's not doing so hot, Mr. Newsom. Okay, let's see. People in California seem to be blaming Mr. Newsom for mismanaging the forests. Now, last time I was in California, which was several years ago, they would often do like controlled burns to kind of, take the edge off the annual wildfires. Apparently, they weren't doing that. Also trending on Twitter is resign now. People are demanding both Newsom and Karen Bass resign. It's not because Karen Bass is black, it's because she's a gross incompetent, as is Gavin Newsom. It's honestly impressive that you could take like one of the greatest land masses on the planet and just run it into the toilet. California is Elysium. It is Tir Nanog. It is heaven on earth, and you blew it. Bravo. Speaking of California, let's leave the wildfires behind and let's talk about Universal Basic Income, UBI. Uh, I've, I know I've said that I'm kind of lurching towards being in favor of universal basic income just to keep brappies off the street. But yeah, this was not a good result of the study here. Household responses to guaranteed income experimental evidence from Compton, California. A National Bureau of Economic Research study from the NBER, National Bureau of Economic Research in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Long story short, reading the abstract, people were given $500 per month in free money. Participants smoked notably higher amounts of cigarettes. Ultimately, each month they ended up $100 richer. The full results are eye-opening. Receiving guaranteed income had no impact on the labor supply of full-time workers, but part-time workers had a lower labor market participation by 13 percentage points. Okay, insignificant drops in household debts. Okay, it does have a strong positive impact on housing security, but no clear impact on psychological well-being, health, food security, financial security, etc. So yeah, basically they bought a lot more cigarettes, presumably menthols. Yeah, so I guess in a ruthlessly pragmatic sort of way, the UBI gets put back into the government from cigarette and like grape drink taxes. So I guess it works out. But yes, I am in favor of universal basic income with a few modifications to it. Namely, loser people. Basically, my idea of UBI is just to pay losers to stay in their crack houses and like not, brap on the street. Like, we'll pay you, we'll bring you all the goddamn McDonald's and like menthol cigarettes and porno that you want. Just stay in your house and don't bother, functional people. But if that's not the conditions, then yes, I'm not in favor of UBI. Robert Diaz says if you live in New York, people will defend you for stabbing people on a subway. They'll also defend you for threatening to kill people on a train. The world is going down in flames. Yeah, it sure is. And I don't know. Like, it doesn't seem like where can you even run to? It seems like every other country is going down the shitter just as quickly, if not faster, than America. Maybe somebody will turn things around. Sure hope so. Okay, moving on from UBI. We mentioned the subways. Let's talk about the subways for a second. See, in 1 second here. Uh, So, looking at the subways in New York City, what do we see? People are debating, how do we stop the subway pushers? People have come up with some new, spiffy, keen, futuristic solutions, like little fiberglass thingies that pop up in between the people and the subway so that they can't be shoved in front of the subway. I suppose, arresting buggy eyed, screaming derelicts is not an option. Obviously, we can't do that, so we just have to spend millions of dollars on putting up little shields instead of, doing a mean thing and arresting, Braptavius Jr. Boy, a narco tyranny is great, isn't it? I'm sure that subway pushers will find some new way to kill people using these, you know, these fiberglass things. Perhaps they'll break them off and use them as shards, as glass shards to stab people to death. But as long as the shitlibs who run things and live nowhere near the consequences of their actions, as long as they feel good about making some kind of progress and doing something, they feel good. Have you ever heard the phrase be proactive, not reactive? Arresting a couple of screaming, violent derelicts is, in fact, the more cost effective and actually effective solution. Or we can just punish everybody in society with onerous regulations and waste tax dollars because we don't want to arrest a couple of criminals, because arresting criminals would make us feel bad. I mean, why don't we just put everything in fiberglass because it works well for, the deodorant and baby food at the CVS, because punishing people for shoplifting would hurt people's feelings. I just got a text. My wife informed me that our fur daughter is looking very intently. Yes, Caramel, you want to learn about the decline of American society. Yes, you do. You're an angry ranting dog, just like Dad. Okay, let's see. Shinseki Evans says, I would rather some other country be the guinea pig for UBI first. Well, we shall see what happens. Biff Slankovich says in New York, Mayor Adams is booking flights to Turkey because he likes Turkish food, etc., etc. Yes, I'm sure he just likes that kebab. Wink, wink. Yeah, speaking of New York, I remember a while back I read this article about like some gentrified Weish neighborhood in Brooklyn, which is being terrorized by like literally one brappy who's like killed a bunch of people's dogs. They're all just sort of hemming and hawing about, oh, what do we do? We can't arrest him. That'll be the brappy happens to be black, by the way. It's like, oh, it'll be furthering structural racism if we arrest him. We can't do that. I'm just reading this thinking, boy, if this was 1920s Brooklyn, somebody would have taken a baseball bat to this guy at 3 in the morning and that would have been done with it. Now, I'm not suggesting any of my listeners do that, but, maybe you could. In Minecraft, of course. Speaking of, gentrification, kind of, there's something that's actually a bit interesting. On Reddit, there is a man who may have solved the housing crisis. How did he do so? He bought an abandoned crack house off the side of a highway in Pennsylvania. For those of you not aware, Pennsylvania is basically a vast, stretch of rural Arkansas with Philadelphia in the middle of it. So yeah, he was in, buttfuck Pennsylvania. He bought an abandoned crack house for $1,400, and he is now doing the long, hard task of renovating it. This man is an amateur carpenter. He's not a professional. And yeah, it's our crack house on the hill. Seems pretty interesting, actually. And dare I say, this might be the only chance the young people have to own houses. I mean, the house itself doesn't seem like it's bad in a in integrity sense. It seems to be a standard house. It was just lived in by a bunch of screaming derelicts who hoarded garbage and smoked crack in the house. He's got to renovate the hell out of this thing. Yeah, apparently this gentleman recently got divorced, and he's sort of taking his mind off things by renovating a crack house. Good for him. I got to say, this is probably a better, more constructive way that men can sort of get in touch with their inner manhood than those fake, boot camps they do nowadays. Yeah, check out Crack House on the Hill on Reddit if you want. Seems pretty interesting. I hope this guy does well. Every so often, I too get the idea to, flip houses. Just buy some real, crappy houses and flip them. Do I have the know-how? No, I do not. I mean, I've done I've done drywall repairs. I've repaired cabinets and done tiles, and I've done roofing. But actually, building the frame of a house, I have no idea what I'm doing. But hey, at least I can say I own a house. Also, fun fact: Vanilla Ice is currently flipping houses, and he says he makes more money doing it than he ever did in music. So take that as you will. Biff Slankovich says, "Bring Curtis Sliwa back. The Guardian Angel should run New York City. I believe there is a Guardian Angel presence on the subways. Also, speaking of the subways, you probably notice how everybody's very, very deliberately walking as far back away from the platform as possible. Bear in mind that a lot of these people who live in the city, and I used to live in the city myself, are like, people are scared of the subways. What are you, some kind of rural pansy? Then in the city themselves, they're like, oh, they'll, Brap Jr. will be okay as long as you don't look at him or breathe heavily or like make eye contact. Just look down at the floor and pray that he goes away." Ponythroat, referring to the crack house on the hill, says, "Mop the floor and wipe a few windows and increase the price by 15,000, aka be a landlord." Well, I mean, I'm sure the guy will possibly charge rent once he fixes the place up. But yes, my urge to flip houses is always kind of late in there. Also, fun fact: remember that guy Tom Vu from the '90s? His whole deal was literally flipping houses before flipping houses became a thing. There you go. I saved you thousands of dollars of infomercial fees by explaining how Tom Vu made money. Robert Diaz says people may mock Jordan Peterson, and they should. However, he is 100% correct when he says a large population of people with no purpose tend to turn to bad things. Indeed. I mean, this is also a subtle running joke in the Judge Dredd comics that in a world where like 80% of jobs are automated, people just kind of hang around getting really fat and doing drugs. Imagine that Judge Dredd would ever be like an accurate criticism of reality. Well, I take that back. I mean, they were always kind of on the pulse of both British and American culture there. Speaking of Judge Dredd, let's go to the United Kingdom for a second. Not to be outdone with, American stupidity, things are not great in old Blighty either. The ongoing, Rotherham, like, grooming rape gang trial and controversy is still going on. People are upset, and rightfully so. Hundreds of thousands of young English roses were groomed by migrant men, largely Pakistani. People are asking, how could they allow this to happen? Adam H. asks, answer this question. Why are none of the victims ever Muslim girls? So says Bushra Sheikh, presumably of Pakistani ethnicity, says, you're not ready to have that conversation as to why none of the victims were ever from their own ethnicity. In other words, dare I say, I think the woman is saying that they kind of brought it upon themselves. These 12-year-old, houris are dressing provocatively, so they asked for it. The 12-year-old girls asked for it. Dare I say, no. That is not the right idea. That is a bad person. You are a bad person, Bushra. I mean, I assume that's what she was getting at. Maybe she was having a more maybe she was having a more enlightened view of the subject. I don't know. Check out some comments here. Pointy Throat says a career in flipping houses is impossible because you need to buy at least one shitty house. Ah, well, back to flipping burgers instead. I mean, you could buy a crack house for $1,500 and try to flip that. Then, of course, there's the problem of not having the know-how. Oh, yes, and by the way, with regards to Blighty, a national inquiry into the rape gangs has been voted down in the British Parliament by 364 to 111. People wanted a national inquiry into hundreds of thousands of young girls getting groomed, and Parliament said, nah, we're not doing that. Curious as to why they would not want to do this. Perhaps they're afraid of upsetting Pakistanis. Or perhaps they're in on it. You know what's great? Being ruled over by a bunch of chomos. Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, such a thing could never happen in this country, right? I'm gonna stick a knife in my throat. Just kidding. See, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah, America sucks, but like, where are you gonna go? You're gonna go to Britain, where shit like this is happening? You're gonna go to Canada, where like Justin Trudeau's basically inviting in the entire Indian subcontinent to move in. Like, you're gonna move to Germany, where like the police basically help, migrants stab people. Where are you gonna go? Shit sucks all around. Boy, life sucks nowadays. See, what else do we got going on here? My bullet points. Okay, let's see. What do I have here? Pigeons. What the hell did I write down about pigeons? Oh, yes. Going back to New York City, a New York City halal food cart worker has been caught on video catching pigeons and bringing them into his halal food truck for food. He is butchering the pigeons. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pigeons. Dare I say, Donald Trump was not totally wrong here. That's a shame because I've, many a time I have staggered home at 1 in the morning from a drunken jaunt in the city and gotten some halal food truck food just to, keep myself from passing out on the street. Perhaps I should rethink that. Because apparently they're eating pigeons. Pigeons, of course, can be food. It's called a squab, but you know, not street pigeons. Hey, I just made a Cornish game hen with chestnut stuffing. A pigeon stuffed with spam. A rat filled with cough drops. I mean, there's a difference between like farmed pigeons and like street pigeons. It's like when I'm, just out gadding about and I'll see some like English plantain or dandelion or shepherd's purse or something on the side of the road. But I won't eat that because it's like road weeds. It's not good to eat. Dave Sankovic says, bring that Boris Johnson tee-hee. Let the Green Street hooligans run Britain or Peaky Blinders. And it couldn't be any worse. I mean, the West Ham, football firms would, clean house on the streets at least. I say as if much of the Yugoslav wars weren't started by football hooligans. Shinseki Evans says, why would anybody eat from a food cart or taco truck? It's really for people who are staggering home at 1 in the morning, sir. Robert Diaz says there was an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon called Catch That Pigeon. He watched too much of that. Actually, here, it was called Dastardly and Muttley and the Flying Machines. Thank you very much. Speaking of, Hanna-Barbera did that, like, Hanna-Barbera Reloaded comic book series where, like, it was all, like, really, like, intense and dark and edgy reimaginings of the classic cartoons. And they actually brought in, of all people, Garth Ennis to do a reboot of Dastardly and Muttley where they're, like, it was actually pretty good and, like, it was still kind of weird. It was basically Dastardly and Muttley. Those are not their actual names, but they were, like, American fighter pilots, and they investigate a weird kind of Lovecraftian abomination that like turns shit into cartoons. And then basically they're like mutated into Dick Dastardly and Muttley. It's actually not a bad read. Hanna-Barbera Reloaded is of course the same franchise that made a Snagglepuss comic book in which he was basically Tennessee Williams, like a gay Southern Gothic playwright fighting the HUAC trials. And let's not forget the, that legendary line from the Flintstones comic, "We participate in a genocide, Bonnie." Boy, that's not a good voice. Robert Diaz says food trucks have higher health standards and regulations than brick and mortar. We have a lot of highly rated food trucks here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Perhaps, but obviously that's not the case in New York where they're eating the pigeons. I mean, there's also been videos of like guinea pig roasts in New York City as well. Be fair, that guinea pig roast was a Peruvian restaurant. And guinea pigs, or cuy, are a delicacy amongst the people of Peru. I suppose that's not wrong as long as you're not like, I don't know, I'd rather eat guinea pig than like pigeon because those guinea pigs are presumably, inspected and they're up to some kind of health grade, not just street pigeons. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pigeons. Let's see what else we have going on here. Okay, let's see. let's get some positive news for once from America because there's so little of that nowadays. The Associated Press says Art Deco style is popular again, a century after its heyday. Good. Uh, Art Deco is the quintessential American architectural style, and it should be used. In fact, we should have developed it. We should have developed it even further into the 20th century. This should have been the American imperial style. And it should. It should be. Art Deco represents an optimism and enthusiasm for a new world that never came to be. I don't know, after World War II, we all just kind of decided to, stop having nice things. And, yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad that some people are fighting back to have some semblance of a uniquely American culture. Art Deco is a beautiful style combining futurism and classicism. We should have never stopped using it. Let's read this article more in depth. Yes, the new generation is appreciating the style's unapologetically glamorous roots, translating into something new. Okay. Then, of course, there are different permutations of Art Deco in Miami, in New York, in San Francisco, and Los Angeles. So, celebrities like Zendaya, Gigi Hadid, Beyonce, and Demi Lovato are embracing bobs and finger waves, channeling the allure of the Deco era in fresh ways. Drop waist dresses, layers of pearls dominate the runways and street style alike. Good. Glad that some people are bringing back some kind of sartorial excellence in this day and age. Pony Throat says, guinea pigs seem like you would have to go out of your way to get those. Not many stray guinea pigs around like pigeons and dogs. Well, it depends on where you are. I'm sure in Lima, Peru, there's lots of stray guinea pigs just gadding about. Biff Slankovich says Mike Tyson loves his pigeons. Yes, he has them for pets, not for food. Ponythroat says, post-1940, the world decided that the best style should be whichever one is cheapest, hence concrete boxes. Yes, and also shitty American houses made out of bubblegum and prayer. There used to be a time when in America we could ship houses across the country, and they were good houses. You can look in, real estate guides, and you see a Sears and Roebuck house. That's some good shit. But alas, America just decided to not have good things anymore, for no good reason. Let's see what else we got going on. I think we're going to get towards the silly side of things now. Let's see, I can do a story about boomers or a story about donuts. Let's do the boomers first, and then the donuts. So, something went a bit viral on the Twitters, in which somebody discussed talking to a boomer at the pub. The boomer said the kids these days don't want to work. Then he transitioned to a story about him retiring on a workman's comp claim that was 100% his fault. So, to clarify, the quote-unquote hardworking boomer in question, basically he was working some kind of construction job. He was the foreman. They brought in a piece of equipment. The piece of equipment weighed 9,000 pounds. This genius, basically, the piece of equipment was too big to go on the forklift. So this genius foreman gets two forklifts and puts them on opposite sides of the piece of machinery to try to move it. The guy driving the truck that contained the piece of equipment backed up and basically crushed the guy in between in between the forklift and the truck. Says the boomer, the doctor said I only lived because I'm fat. It gave my organs somewhere to move. The young person asks him, even if you didn't get crushed between the truck and the forklift, what exactly was your plan? You have two forklifts on opposite sides of a piece of equipment. How can they move, to one place? The boomer shrugged and said, I don't know, I guess we got another forklift. Bravo, boomers. Bravo. You were staggering incompetent. You crippled yourself due to your own idiocy. And you basically lived the rest of your life on workman's comp. Bravo. Nobody wants to work anymore. These damn kids today, they're lazy. They don't want to work twice as hard for a tenth of the paycheck against the entire third world. These fucking kids nowadays. Me. Ponythroat says, I assumed he was planning on having one in reverse and one moving forward. I mean, possibly, but it seems to me like that's a really risky thing to do when you're carrying a 9,000-pound piece of equipment. Like, I don't know. Personally speaking, I would have waited to get like a bigger forklift. But, what do I know? Hey, my lovely wife and my lovely dog are saying hello to me. Yes, hello, my girls. It's always nice to have my girls kind of cheer me up after talking about just death and despair and misery and pain all the time. And speaking of idiocy with motor vehicles, there's a new viral trend in the Colorado suburbs featuring people, particularly of a dusky persuasion, literally playing in traffic. I don't get what's going on. So, like, what's going on is there's a bunch of, dead-eyed brappies and some guys doing donuts in the street. One guy is basically just like running into the street and just gets demolished by the car. The car knocks him flying about 30 feet. Everyone's like, yeah, woohoo, clapping. I have no idea what's like. Hey guys, let's play in traffic. Hibbity hibbity. Like, are our lives so easy that like people are literally jumping into traffic for, just for the fun of it? I mean, to be fair, I feel like this might be like a problem that solves itself. You know, screaming derelicts and morons playing traffic. They get killed by cars. No more problem. I mean, I do enjoy seeing these fucking tards like getting run over by trucks, but yeah, it's honestly kind of fun, but also deeply depressing. Well, these are the people who are going to be running this country in the future, just screaming derelicts like running into traffic for the amusement of it. Yay, let's run into traffic. Personally, if I was really bored, I would like maybe try to play guitar or something if I didn't have anything else accessible. But, what do I know? Clearly, like, I'm not good enough. I'm not cool like these young whippersnappers with their broccoli hair nowadays. If I were really cool, I would just jump into traffic and just get wiped out by Cadillac Escalades doing donuts. It says they're role playing the pedestrians in Carmageddon, or they're practicing for the dodgeball championship. I mean, if they were really practicing for the dodgeball championships, couldn't they just throw wrenches at each other? And that way they wouldn't be, holding up traffic. Okay, is it time to go to the silly side of things? I believe so. First of all, wait. Nope. Take it back. I get to talk about one last thing before we get to the goofy side of things. It is the schools. Yep, the schools suck. And boy, it's something from my state. And I quote, New Jersey ends basic reading and writing skills test requirement for teachers. Critics of the test argue that a test in which you have to pass reading, writing, and mathematics tests is an artificial barrier that disproportionately impacted teacher candidates of color. Now, I'm not just bragging because I kicked ass on the basic assessment. I literally got I was in the 100th percentile for math and like the 99th for reading and writing. So I absolutely dominated that test. And I'm not just saying this just a brag, but I had this ridiculous idea that like a teacher should be able to read and write and do basic math to teach the children. Apparently, my state says otherwise. As somebody who is technically of color, I'm personally a little offended at the idea that teachers of color can't pass like a SAT, which is essentially what the it's like the graduate skills requirement test is. It's the blind leading the stupid. And most of my coworkers in school seem to be fairly intelligent people, so I think they could pass this test at least. But boy, this country's going down the shitter. And nobody seems to care. Gee, it's a mystery why America sucks now. Yeah, it's a mystery. Bear in mind that teachers still apparently need to have a bachelor's degree at least, so one wonders how they can get a bachelor's if they can't pass a basic high school, level test. I mean, I know that teachers oftentimes students don't respect their teachers, but I can't think of a faster way for a student to not respect their teacher by having a teacher who's a blithering moron who can't even pass the same work that they give the students. Pony Throat says, if you can dodge traffic, you can dodge a ball. Shinseki Evans says, might as well have the kids teach themselves. I mean, you could do that. You could also do my idea to fix the public schools, and like, the first thing I have to do is kick out all the malactors, the malingerers. Got to kick out the brappies, kick out the violent students, kick out the loser administrators, kick out, horny the elf teachers. Get the classroom a place where we can learn, and you can start learning things. Alpha Riga says, it's another time I forgot about the stream, so I could have seen all of it. Well, we're not done yet, sir, so you'll be able to catch a good amount of it. Believe it or not, I do care about the children. And it does make me angry when, the government goes out of its way to do things that'll make the children stupider. Excuse the pause, I'm trying to think of a famous quote from the Confucian Analects where he basically says, yeah, life sucks. You got to try really hard to, do it good, but it's probably not going to work. Let me, wait. I have it somewhere. A superior man takes office and performs the righteous duty belonging to it. That's me. As to the failure of righteous principles to make any progress, he's well aware of that. That's also me. I go to class, I try really hard to teach the kids. Most of them don't give a shit, but I go and I do it anyway because it's the right thing to do. Tony Throat says if you can dodge taxes, you can dodge a ball. I should watch Dodgeball again. That's some good shit. Alfred says, did you talk about Zuckerberg? What about Zuckerberg? I know he was on the Joe Rogan show, wasn't he? Oh yeah, Zuckerberg. He's I think he's like kind of taken away some of the like anti-free speech stuff on Facebook. He's kind of lurching towards I guess lurching towards like Trump supporting, only because that seems to be the way the winds are blowing. So if he is earnestly coming about this, it's good for him, I suppose. But I feel like it's just because people are kind of turning against all this, hardcore leftist stuff. People are just kind of reading the room. Okay, so now we finally get to the silly side of things. First off, sorry, I was distracted by something on Twitter. Yes, on Twitter, some guy who calls himself Chad Dad online, he is not a Chad, he's having a bad day. He went to the Philippines, married some Filipina lady. He brought her back to America, and now she's divorcing his ass after 2 years of marriage. He is openly weeping because my wife became quote unquote Americanized. No, I think you're just a shitty husband, sir. I mean, the man does repeatedly talk about how rich he is. Sir, you're in your 40s. Like, I think you should understand that you're in a transactional relationship. I mean, this guy's like a, jowly, tub of shit. Like, why would I can't imagine this happened. And yeah, this guy seems like a total dork. Chad Dad. I mean, even if this woman wasn't, from the Philippines, you'd probably divorce him anyway, just because he's a loser. It's like back when I used to date my bitch, ex-wife. She used to watch 90 Day Fiance, and I was forced into watching some of that crap. And there's this one show in particular where it was like this like literal like hunched over weenie, computer nerd. He's just so stunned that this like Brazilian supermodel was into him. And I just looked at the TV and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna end like immediately after she gets her green card. And sure enough, it did. Okay. Shinseki Evans says, Zuck fired the fact checkers and reassigned DEI people, and leftoids are mad at his policy changes. Yes. Alfred says, they're actually mad he took the tampons out of the men's room. Ponythroat says he aced the math test and quoted Confucius. I start to think Larsen might be Asian. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the teaching license math test, it was basically like SAT level math. I mean, it really wasn't that hard. I mean, I've never really struggled with like math that's like actually useful. It's just stupid theoretical crap that you never use for practicality. That's what I struggle with. Hey, Shinseki Evans says Filipino wives never work out. I know people have gotten screwed over. Well, I mean, there's nothing wrong with dating a woman from the Philippines or anywhere else. It's just, if you go to like, the slums of Mindanao or whatever, and you're like waving American dollars around, don't be surprised when women date you for your money. Ponythroat says, how did he know she was after a green card? It was obvious. Well, I mean, he was a Chad dad, so I guess he had his wildly overinflated opinion of himself being cool, and he just didn't realize it. Ponythroat says, if you can dodge your bitch ex-wife, you can dodge a ball. Yes. Speaking of men and women not knowing how they are, not knowing how the opposite sex is, let's go to Dubai for a second. Still in Asia, we're going from the Philippines to Dubai. Okay, so ladies are slowly coming to the realization that Sheik Yerbouti in Dubai probably doesn't want to date you because he likes your personality. A woman on Facebook says, I agreed to date a millionaire in Dubai. Okay. 2 weeks ago, I went to Dubai for the first time with a friend who usually goes there. She told me you could get lots of money. So she was in awe with Dubai, all the luxury. A strange man approached her, and he told me that in exchange for a day shopping at the stores, basically you can spend one night with me. I thought within me, nobody needs to know that I've traded my body for jewelry and clothes. We're far from home. What happens in Dubai stays in Dubai. He offered her $50,000 plus all expenses paid shopping spree in exchange for something. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, at 10 o'clock, a man came in a Lamborghini Diablo, took him to see the guy, signed a NDA. So then they went shopping, all the major stores, restaurants, massage parlors, etc. She bought an original Chanel bag and Hermes sandals, perfumes, Saint Laurent clothes, Prada, Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, etc., etc., etc. So then at 10 at night, basically she goes to the mansion and she meets Sheik Yerbouti and 4 other men, and it didn't go well from there. They subjected her to some of the most horrific sexual sadism you can imagine. They penetrated her in every hole. They forced her to have sex with dogs. They tied her up, stuck things into her orifices. They, pissed and crapped on her. She was forced to eat it. After doing all this, then threw her into the ocean and gave her the money and, told her to go fuck herself. My friend came to see me around 9 o'clock. Told me, my dear, you'll get used to this. The friend said it's not always like this. Okay, and basically this woman is basically having suicidal thoughts now. She just feels intense shame. She just starts screaming and crying for no reason. And, yeah. Breaking news. Arab oil sheiks tend to be a bit, shall we say, cavalier with the broads. Okay, Shinseki Evan says Filipinos expect you to support their entire family. You got to mail half your paycheck to her parents every month. Yeah, I ain't doing that. Okay. Alpha says that I had to be told who Ching Long is. Yes, I'm not as well versed in Chinese alchemy as I should be. Ponythroat says Sheik Dubai does no like you personality. Likes your flushing action high quality mahogany seat. And he is eating psyllium fibers during the entire shopping spree. Very weird. Okay, let's see. Yeah, you probably should have realized that a man isn't going to approach you and give you $50,000 just to have a nice dinner with you. Moving on from that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about literature. As we kind of wrap things up here. Two things to say about literature. First of all, kind of tying into the teaching thing, people don't really read nowadays, and that's a problem. People say perhaps we should rewrite books so they're in Zoomer accessible language. How about no? How about we let the artist write their books in the original language as written? I mean, people are talking about like let's rewrite, popular fiction as well. Let's rewrite the Robert Howard stories to have, Zoomer lingo. No. I was reading Shakespeare when I was in high school. It was part of the class curriculum, and I actually liked it. Maybe we should teach the kids how to read properly. Kids could actually learn new vocabulary from reading more complicated books. Boy, people are stupid. And speaking of stupid stupid literary crap, Wales had something to say about literature. From The Guardian UK, and I swear to you, this is an actual article. Fairy porn. Is this booming erotica genre an insult to the Welsh? Some of these raunchy fantasy novels borrow heavily from Welsh mythology, prompting concerns about misrepresentation. Yes, the book talk girlies reading their fantasy porn, their fairy porn. This is apparently a problem. Damn you, book talk! Okay, seriously, the issue about this is apparently, many fantasy books utilize kind of Welsh sounding names to sound sort of fantastical. This has been dubbed the Tolkien effect, after the author of the the Silmarillion, Lord of the Rings, and such, who was a scholar of linguistics, utilized Welsh phonetics and things for the creation of Sindarin and other fantastical languages. Many other authors kind of copy this, not knowing any better. And just because that's sort of like the trend in fantasy. There's also been several video games and such named after the Mabinogion and what have you. Okay, okay. It can be pretty patronizing, says Bethan Hindmarch. The use of Welsh words by non-Welsh authors is increasingly becoming a pet peeve. It creates an image of the country that is not realistic. That is this magical, romantic, rural place. That is not all that Wales is. I mean, I'm kidding, of course. Wales has things besides, fairies and sheep. It also has Wrexham FC and Super Ted. Okay, this woman, Ms. Hindmarch, says she has mixed feelings. On the one hand, I don't like these snobbery towards so-called romantasy books because it is making, it's bringing new readers to the genre. I have people coming into my bookstore who normally would have never done it, and that's good. But it is a pet peeve about this sort of pan-Celtic, whatever. Okay, fair enough. I know. I'm sure that like Rebecca Yarros and Sarah J. Maas could like go to Cardiff and just sort of scrape their heads on the floor a little bit. And let's be honest, like the use of like Welshiness for fantasy, it goes back a lot further than the book talk girlies. I mean, when I was a kid, I read those like the Lost Years of Merlin stories by who was it? Was it R.A. Salvatore? Give me a second here. T.A. Barron. I was way off. I knew there was an A in it. Yeah, anyway, he basically set those stories in Gwynedd, which is Wales. Then, of course, Robert Howard in, creating his Cimmerians, that is derivative of Cymric, i.e. Wales. Also, H.P. Lovecraft had some things to say about, the pre-Celtic native peoples of the British Isles. Namely, he was horrified that he may have had a Welsh great-grandmother, and that's apparently race mixing. Okay, but yeah, in all seriousness, this is like, if your biggest concern is about fairy porn, you should probably take a step back and like realize that you don't have that many problems in life. And all this time, I was trying really hard to not make the obvious joke about Welsh erotica being about sheep. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Yeah, so that, yeah, I will say that the myths of the fair folk were originally kind of raunchy. Going back to like the Greek Sylvanus myth and what have you, and his giant 4 foot long penis. Uh, the whole mythos got a bit of a rebranding during the Victorian era. But anyway, on that note, that's all I got in my prepared remarks. You can say your last pieces now, should you desire. Pointy Throat says, is anyone else constantly baffled that other people don't have half the cynicism and suspicions of others that I had by the age of 11? I mean, I was suspicious and cynical by the time I was like 5, so, you're not alone in that. Alpha Mariga says, I really hope superheroes become real during Gen Alpha's young adulthood. Yes, we all wish superheroes were real. I'd hate to have to call my home insurance. Oh, I'm sorry, he says don't become real. I mean, I feel like a lot of if I feel like a real life superhero would be sort of like a glorified Instagram influencer, especially nowadays. Alpha says, I would hate to have to call my home insurance about these super skibbity cannon getting deflected by a monster at my house. Alpha says, I just use made up words for my fantasy manuscript. Alpha says, insert joke about Tinkerbell getting stuck in the keyhole. You could also smack her on the ass to shake the fairy dust out. Shinseki Evans says, the Puff the Magic Dragon guy died. Boomers cried. Yes, so he did. So, yes, say your last pieces now, should you desire. Oh, and speaking of, someone posted a gif of that exact scene from Peter Pan of Tinkerbell getting the fairy dust smacked out of her ass. Hey. I will say that, say what you will about fairy porn. At least the young people are reading something. That's better than nothing. Okay. Alpha then gives me a brief lecture on Chinese alchemy. Yes, thank you, sir. Sadly, I probably am more familiar with European alchemy, for what little that's worth. I'll give you one more minute to, say your last pieces. Okay, seems like nobody's got anything new to say. So for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.